Every morning felt the same. I'd wake up, make breakfast for the kids, kiss my husband goodbye, and catch the 7:30 bus to work. 7 years into marriage, and somehow, I felt more alone than ever. My husband and I barely talked unless it was about bills, groceries, or the kids' homework. We slept side by side, but the distance between us felt wider than the bed. I wasn't unhappy, exactly. Just hollow. Like something important had slowly drained away, without me noticing. The bus became my small escape. Quiet. Predictable. A short time where no one needed anything from me. I first noticed him on a Tuesday. He wasn't our usual driver. This man was younger than most, probably mid-30s, with a calm, steady voice. He greeted everyone with warmth, even at that early hour. When I stepped on, he smiled and said, "Good morning," like he meant it. That smile stuck with me longer than it should have. Over the next few weeks, he became the regular. He remembered my name, asked how my day was going, and somehow managed to make a routine bus ride feel personal. His presence started to matter. I began waking up just a little earlier to make sure I didn't miss his shift. I didn't tell anyone that, not even myself, not in those exact words. There was no flirting. Nothing inappropriate. But I caught myself caring about what I looked like before getting on the bus. Just in case. I wore lipstick one morning. He noticed. Said it looked nice. That compliment stayed with me all day. I hated how much I replayed it in my head, hated that I even cared. But I did. Then came the morning everything shifted. The bus was nearly empty. As I climbed aboard, he looked up and said, "You're my only passenger today." His tone was casual, but something fluttered in my chest. I took my usual seat, but the silence between us felt charged. He glanced at me through the mirror a few times, and I pretended not to notice, pretending even harder not to enjoy it. He broke the silence first. "We never get to talk for real, do we?" It caught me off guard. I nodded, unsure what to say. And then, as if the universe conspired to twist things tighter, the traffic lights hit green all the way to the station. We got there far earlier than usual. But he didn't rush. Neither did I. He leaned slightly toward me, resting his elbow on the steering wheel. "You always look like you're carrying the weight of the world." I laughed, soft and bitter. "Maybe I am." There was a beat of quiet. Then he said, "Well, for what it's worth, I think you're doing better than you know." Those words? They were nothing. And yet, they felt like everything I hadn't heard in years. Something warm curled up inside me, unexpected and a little dangerous. I stepped off the bus that day with my heart racing, unsure of why, but I knew it had started. Something had shifted, and I wasn't ready to admit what. The next morning, I hesitated before leaving the house. I stared at myself in the mirror longer than usual, questioning everything and nothing at the same time. I knew I'd see him again. I wanted to. The thought unsettled me more than it should have. I told myself it was just a harmless connection. Just someone being kind in a world that rarely is. When I got on the bus, he smiled like he'd been waiting for me. I returned it more naturally than I meant to. This time, I didn't go straight to my usual seat. I sat closer. He noticed but didn't comment. The engine hummed to life, and we drove in silence for a minute before he spoke. "Rough morning?" he asked. I nodded. "Always is." He laughed softly. "I get it. Life wears people down." I wanted to ask about his life, but didn't. He answered anyway, unprompted. "I got divorced last year. 2 kids. Shared custody. Some days I miss the noise. Some days I don't." That cracked something open in me. I found myself saying things I hadn't told anyone. That my marriage felt like a roommate agreement. That I didn't remember the last time someone looked me in the eyes and really saw me. He didn't try to fix it. He just listened. "It's strange, isn't it?" he said. "How you can live with someone and still feel invisible." I didn't know what to say to that. Because he was right. Because he saw me. The rest of the ride passed quickly. I didn't want it to end. As we pulled into the station, he turned slightly and said, "Thanks for trusting me with all that." I nodded, my throat dry. "Thanks for listening." I got off the bus, but a part of me stayed behind. All day, I thought about our conversation. I shouldn't have, but I did. The next few days followed the same pattern. We talked more, laughed more. He shared stories about his kids, his past, things he missed. I told him about my dreams before marriage, the ones I gave up without even realizing. It felt like discovering a part of myself that had been asleep for years. There were no grand gestures, no explicit lines crossed. But emotionally, I knew I was slipping. I caught myself checking my phone, hoping for a text even though he didn't have my number. I walked slower getting off the bus, hoping for another moment. I went to sleep thinking about him. Not my husband. Then one morning it happened. He handed me a small coffee. Your usual, right? I hadn't told him what I liked, but he'd remembered from an offhand comment days ago. It wasn't the coffee. It was the attention, the detail, the care. That day, when I stepped off the bus, he said, "You light up when you laugh. Just thought you should know." I didn't respond. Couldn't. My heart beat faster than it should have. I walked away, but my feet felt unsteady. I was drifting into something real, and I wasn't sure I wanted to stop. I started leaving the house earlier. Told my husband I needed more time to catch the bus. He barely looked up from his phone. I wondered if he even noticed the change. I told myself it was about the commute, but deep down I knew I just wanted those extra minutes with him. The bus driver. The man who remembered my stories, who saw me. One morning, it was raining hard. I climbed aboard soaked, frustrated, already late. He handed me a towel from his glove box without a word. I smiled. "You think of everything," I said. "Only for certain people," he replied. The way he looked at me then, it wasn't subtle anymore. It wasn't friendly. It was personal. And I didn't look away. That ride, we didn't talk much. The silence was louder than our conversations. When we reached the station, he parked and turned to me. "You ever wonder what it'd be like to just start over?" I knew what he meant. "Every day," I said. I didn't mean to. It just came out. He nodded. "Me too." Then he looked away, almost ashamed. "Sorry." That was too much. But it wasn't. I understood it too well. That desire to escape the heaviness. To be seen, wanted. Free. Later that week, I skipped work. I told them I was sick. But I wasn't. I just wanted to breathe. To think. I rode the bus aimlessly, not caring about the route. When he saw me, he didn't ask questions. He just said, "Rough day." I nodded. "Wanna talk?" I said yes. We drove in silence for a while. Then he pulled into a quiet spot near a park. "I probably shouldn't do this," he said, turning off the engine. I didn't ask what he meant. I already knew. I felt it too. The tension was thick, unspoken but undeniable. We sat there, side by side, not touching. He told me about the night his marriage ended. How his ex left a note and never came back. I told him how mine never really started again after the kids were born. How I'd stopped feeling like a woman and more like an employee in my own home. Then he reached over, slow, unsure, and touched my hand. Just briefly. I didn't pull away. I looked at him, and for a second, we didn't say anything. We just existed. In that small, suspended moment, the possibility of something more was real. But it passed. I moved my hand away gently. "I should go," I whispered. He didn't argue. Just nodded. "I'll see you tomorrow?" he asked. "Yeah," I said. "Tomorrow." That night I lied. I told my husband I'd stayed late at work. He didn't ask questions. Just said, "Okay," and went back to scrolling on his phone. I stared at the ceiling for hours, feeling guilt press against my chest like a weight. But underneath it was something else. Confusion, longing, maybe even hope. Something had cracked open. And now it wouldn't close. The guilt didn't come all at once. It showed up in pieces. When my husband brought me tea without being asked, when the kids showed me drawings they made at school, when I saw my own reflection and barely recognized the woman staring back. I had created a distance, one I could no longer blame entirely on him. And now I had to sit with it. One night, my husband left a note on my pillow. "I know we've been off. I miss how we used to be. Let's talk." Just 10 words. But they cut deep. I held it in my hand for a long time, trying to feel something. I did.
Shame.
Sadness. A quiet ache for what we once had. Maybe I wasn't the only one who felt lost. Maybe I'd stopped seeing him the same way he'd stopped seeing me. The next morning, I didn't take the early bus. I stayed in bed and watched the ceiling change colors with the rising light. Later, I sat across from my husband at the kitchen table and said, "I need to tell you something. I haven't done anything physical, but emotionally, I've gone somewhere else." He stayed silent, his face hard to read. "I've felt invisible," I continued. "Unwanted. Lonely in a way I didn't know how to talk about." He looked down, nodded slowly. "I know," he said. "I've felt it too. But I didn't know how to fix it. I thought maybe you were just tired. Or done." We talked. For real. For the first time in what felt like years. Not about the kids or bills or schedules. About us. What we'd lost. What we'd let die quietly between routines. Neither of us cried. But our voices cracked. We were tired, and maybe that was the beginning of something honest. He asked me if I wanted to fix things. I said I didn't know, but I wanted to try. He said the same. It wasn't forgiveness. It wasn't a clean slate. But it was a crack of light through the wall we'd built. The next day, I saw the bus driver one last time. He looked at me and immediately sensed the shift. I sat down near the front and smiled, soft, distant. "I can't keep riding," I said quietly. "Things at home, they need my attention." He didn't try to convince me otherwise. Just nodded. "I'm glad you're trying. You deserve to be seen. Even if it's not by me." I thanked him for listening, for reminding me I was still a person. He smiled, but his eyes were tired. "Take care of yourself," he said. I stepped off the bus, feeling lighter and heavier all at once. Life didn't magically fix itself. There were still silences, still moments of doubt. But now there was effort. I stopped waiting to be noticed and started showing up fully, even when it was hard. And in return, my husband began doing the same. We weren't perfect, but we were trying. And sometimes, that's enough to begin again.